There is a difference between someone who wants your attention and someone who wants your soul. Attention is loud. It demands replies, reassurance, validation. It feeds on quick messages, constant updates, visible proof. But love of the soul is quiet. It is steady. It does not tremble when you are offline. It does not panic when you are distant. It does not disappear when you are imperfect. Many people will crave your presence because you make them feel important. Very few will cherish your essence because you make them feel awakened. The one who loves your attention wants access. The one who loves your soul wants understanding. They are not obsessed with how often you text. They are attentive to how you think. They are not measuring how loudly you love them. They are listening to the silent parts of you that you rarely reveal to anyone. When someone loves your attention, they are energized by the spotlight you give them. But when someone loves your soul, they are moved by your depths, even the shadows. They do not turn away when you reveal your fears, your contradictions, your wounds. Instead, they lean closer, not to fix you, not to control you, but to witness you. Proof of soul-level love is this: they are consistent when there is nothing to gain. They are kind when you are difficult. They are patient when you are uncertain. They do not compete with your growth. They protect it. They do not feel threatened by your independence. They respect it. Someone who only wants your attention will subtly demand that you shrink so they can feel secure. But someone who loves your soul will encourage you to expand, even if expansion changes the relationship's shape. They are not loving you for comfort. They are loving you for truth. You will notice something else. When a person loves your attention, your connection feels urgent. When they love your soul, it feels safe. Urgency is fueled by fear of loss. Safety is fueled by trust in depth. The one who loves your soul is not fascinated only by your strengths. They are curious about your patterns. They ask questions that make you reflect. They remember small details about your childhood dreams, your silent struggles, the way your eyes shift when you are overwhelmed. They study you not to possess you, but to understand the architecture of who you are. And here is the deeper proof. They do not love you only when you are radiant. They love you when you are withdrawn, when you doubt yourself, when you are in transition. They see your becoming, not just your current form. They are attached, not to the version of you that benefits them, but to the essence that exists beyond roles, beyond performance. Attention-based love collapses when adoration fades. Soul-based love deepens when reality appears. You will feel it in your body. Around someone who wants your attention, you feel pressure to impress, to respond, to maintain an image. Around someone who loves your soul, you feel release. You can exhale. You can be unfinished. You can be evolving. And perhaps the greatest proof of all is this: they are not afraid of your truth. They do not punish honesty. They do not manipulate vulnerability. They honor it. Soul love is not loud. It does not perform. It does not chase applause. It chooses presence over possession, depth over display, growth over control. If someone in your life makes you feel more yourself, not smaller, not louder, not more anxious, but more aligned, more grounded, more real, then understand this carefully. They are not loving the attention you give them. They are loving the soul you are. And that kind of love does not seek to consume you. It seeks to meet you. There is a profound psychological difference between attention-seeking attachment and soul-level love. And most people confuse the two because both can feel intense in the beginning. Attention-seeking attachment is fueled by validation. It thrives on reaction, visibility, and reassurance. It needs constant proof to feel secure. The connection becomes centered around responses: how quickly you reply, how often you call, how publicly you display affection. The bond is measured by frequency and volume. If attention decreases, anxiety increases. If validation pauses, doubt grows. The relationship begins to orbit around maintaining stimulation rather than cultivating understanding. In attention-driven dynamics, affection can subtly turn into performance. One partner may feel pressured to constantly affirm, entertain, or reassure the other. Emotional energy is spent managing insecurities instead of exploring depth. There is often an unspoken fear beneath the surface, fear of being ignored, replaced, or forgotten. This fear creates urgency. Urgency creates dependency. And dependency disguises itself as passion. Soul-level love operates differently. It does not panic in silence. It does not interpret space as rejection. It is not obsessed with visibility because it is anchored in understanding, where attention-seeking attachment asks, Are you focused on me? Soul-level love asks, do I understand you? The difference is subtle but transformative. One seeks to be seen, the other seeks to see. When someone loves your attention, they are often drawn to how you make them feel about themselves. You become a mirror reflecting their worth. Your praise stabilizes them. Your absence destabilizes them. But when someone loves your soul, they are drawn to who you are independent of what you provide. They are curious about your fears, your contradictions, your dreams that you barely articulate. They listen between your words. They notice patterns in your behavior. They respect your internal world. Attention-based connection can feel intoxicating because it is dramatic. It is filled with intense highs and anxious lows. There is a constant need to check, confirm, and reaffirm. But soul-level love feels steady. It allows both people to exist as individuals without perceiving autonomy as threat. There is emotional security not because of constant contact, but because of consistent character. Another distinction lies in reaction to imperfection. Attention-seeking attachment often withdraws when admiration fades. If you are no longer entertaining, agreeable, or impressive, tension emerges. But soul-level love becomes deeper when flaws are revealed. Vulnerability strengthens it rather than threatening it. It does not demand you remain polished. It values your authenticity more than your presentation. At its core, attention-seeking love is externally regulated. It depends on visible cues to feel stable. Soul-level love is internally anchored. It is rooted in trust, empathy, and mutual growth. One consumes energy rapidly and demands maintenance. The other builds resilience quietly and strengthens over time. The difference is not in how loudly someone loves you, but in how deeply they understand you. One wants access to your spotlight. The other wants access to your truth. Consistency without gain is one of the clearest indicators of depth in a connection. It reveals intention without performance, care without calculation. Many relationships operate on invisible exchanges: affection for validation, attention for reassurance, presence for benefit. When there is something to gain, people often show up with enthusiasm. They call when they are lonely. They compliment when they fear losing you. They invest when it secures their position. But remove the reward, remove the immediate emotional return, and the truth of their character becomes visible. Consistency without gain means someone remains steady even when there is no applause, no advantage, no spotlight. They do not disappear when you are struggling and unable to offer your best self. They do not reduce their warmth when you are distracted, busy, or temporarily unavailable. Their energy does not fluctuate based on what you are currently providing. Their care is not a strategy. It is a reflection of who they are. This kind of consistency is quiet. It does not announce itself dramatically. It appears in small behaviors repeated over time. A message to check on you without expecting a long conversation. Patience when you are emotionally overwhelmed. Respect when you need space. Loyalty in rooms where your name is mentioned and you are not present to defend yourself. These actions do not generate immediate rewards, yet they continue. That is the point. When someone acts only when there is gain, their presence feels conditional. You begin to sense the pattern. They are attentive when they need closeness. They are affectionate when they want reassurance. They are supportive when they benefit from your strength. The relationship becomes transactional in subtle ways. You may not consciously calculate it, but your nervous system feels it. There is pressure to maintain value, to sustain connection. Consistency without gain removes that pressure. It creates emotional safety because it is not fueled by scarcity or fear. The person is not investing in you to secure control or advantage. They are investing because they have chosen you consciously. Their steadiness is not dependent on outcome. It is rooted in commitment to character. There is also maturity in this form of consistency. It reflects emotional regulation. A person who can remain present without immediate gratification has developed internal stability. They do not need constant emotional return to feel secure. They understand that connection evolves in phases, sometimes intense, sometimes quiet. Their loyalty is not disrupted by temporary discomfort. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of consistency without gain is that it fosters trust over time. Trust is not built through grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It is built through repetition of reliable behavior. When someone shows up in ordinary moments, when nothing exciting is happening, when there is no audience watching, that is when their authenticity is revealed. True care is proven in neutrality. When there is nothing to win, nothing to secure, nothing to extract, and they remain the same. The steadiness speaks louder than passion, louder than promises, louder than words. Encouragement of growth is one of the most powerful signs that a connection is rooted in depth rather than possession. Many relationships begin with admiration, but not all can survive evolution. Growth changes routines, perspectives, ambitions, and sometimes even identities. When someone truly cares about you at a profound level, they do not cling to the version of you that first felt familiar or convenient. They understand that you are not a fixed structure but a living process. Instead of fearing your expansion, they support it. In connections rooted in insecurity, growth can feel threatening. If you develop new skills, new confidence, or new independence, the other person may unconsciously interpret it as distance. They might subtly discourage your ambitions, question your changes, or create tension when you pursue something that does not revolve around them. This does not always happen in obvious ways. Sometimes it appears as doubt disguised as concern or criticism disguised as realism. The underlying fear is simple. If you grow, you may outgrow them. But encouragement of growth reflects emotional security. It means someone values your becoming more than their comfort. They do not attempt to freeze you in a version that serves their needs. Instead, they become curious about who you are transforming into. They ask about your goals. They celebrate your progress. They support your risks, even when those risks introduce uncertainty into the relationship. This kind of encouragement is not loud or performative. It is steady reassurance that your evolution is not a threat to the bond. True support also involves allowing discomfort. Growth is rarely graceful. It involves mistakes, confusion, and temporary instability. A person who encourages your development does not withdraw when you are in transition. They do not demand that you remain polished or predictable. They understand that expansion can look messy before it looks successful. Rather than controlling the process, they create space for it. There is also a deeper psychological element to this kind of encouragement. When someone genuinely supports your growth, it means they are not building their identity around controlling you. Their sense of self does not depend on your dependence. They are capable of standing beside a strong, evolving individual without feeling diminished. This requires maturity and self-awareness. It requires them to confront their own insecurities rather than project them onto you. Encouragement of growth transforms the dynamic of a relationship. Instead of competing, you collaborate. Instead of shrinking to maintain harmony, you expand while maintaining connection. Instead of fearing change, you navigate it together. The bond becomes a foundation rather than a cage. When you are loved in this way, you feel lighter. There is no silent pressure to remain the same. You are not subconsciously managing another person's fragility. You are free to explore your potential while knowing that someone believes in your direction. That belief strengthens your courage, and courage fuels further growth. A connection that nurtures your evolution does not confine your spirit. It amplifies it. There is a profound emotional difference between safety and urgency, though both can feel intense in their own ways. Urgency is often mistaken for passion because it is loud, immediate, and consuming. It creates a sense of heightened importance, as if every message, every interaction, every silence carries enormous weight. When urgency defines a connection, there is a constant underlying tension. You feel the need to respond quickly, reassure consistently, and maintain momentum so the bond does not weaken. The relationship feels like it must be fed continuously or it will collapse. This intensity can be addictive, but it is rarely peaceful. Urgency is usually rooted in fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of replacement, fear of losing control. When someone relates to you through urgency, their attachment may depend on constant confirmation. If you take space, they become anxious. If you are distracted, they interpret it as withdrawal. The connection becomes reactive rather than stable. Emotional highs are followed by emotional lows. Closeness feels dramatic, but distance feels catastrophic. You are pulled into a cycle where reassurance temporarily soothes insecurity only for it to resurface again. Safety operates differently. Safety does not rush. It does not demand proof every hour. It is not threatened by temporary silence or personal space. When safety is present, you do not feel pressure to perform affection to keep the bond intact. You trust that the connection remains steady, even when life becomes busy or complicated. There is an underlying sense that you are not one mistake away from losing everything. In a safe connection, communication is intentional rather than frantic. You are not speaking out of panic. but out of presence. You do not feel the need to constantly monitor the other person as emotional state to prevent conflict. Disagreements do not threaten the foundation. Space does not signal rejection. You are allowed to exist as a full individual without the relationship feeling fragile. Safety also transforms vulnerability. Under urgency, vulnerability can feel risky because it might destabilize the already tense dynamic. You may hide parts of yourself to avoid triggering insecurity. But when safety defines the relationship, vulnerability becomes easier. You can admit doubts, express fears, or reveal imperfections without fearing sudden withdrawal of affection. The other person does not weaponize your honesty. They handle it with care. Another subtle difference lies in how your body responds. Urgency creates restlessness. You may find yourself overthinking messages, rereading conversations, anticipating reactions. Your nervous system remains alert. Safety, on the other hand, allows you to relax. You are not constantly bracing for emotional shifts. You can focus on your life, your goals, your growth, without feeling that the relationship demands constant surveillance. Urgency can feel like intensity, but safety feels like stability. One burns quickly and dramatically. The other endures quietly and deeply. When someone chooses safety over urgency, they are choosing trust over fear. They are choosing a connection that does not need to be chased or constantly proven. And in that steadiness, love has room to mature rather than simply ignite. Acceptance of shadows is one of the rarest and most transformative qualities within a deep connection. Most people fall in love with light first, with strengths, charm, humor, intelligence, beauty, ambition. These qualities are easy to admire because they are visible and socially rewarded. But every human being carries unseen layers, insecurities, past wounds, fears, contradictions, regrets, and patterns formed in moments of pain. These hidden dimensions are what shape reactions, defenses, and vulnerabilities. To truly love someone is not only to celebrate their light, but to remain present when their shadows emerge. Shadows are not simply flaws. They are the parts of us we learn to hide in order to feel safe or accepted. They may appear as jealousy when we fear abandonment, withdrawal when we fear rejection, anger when we feel powerless, or self-doubt when we anticipate failure. Many connections fracture at the first sign of these complexities, because one or both people were only prepared to love the polished version of each other. When the image shifts, disappointment replaces curiosity. Acceptance of shadows does not mean tolerating harmful behavior without boundaries. It means recognizing that imperfection is part of being human. It means understanding that your partner is difficult moments are often echoes of unresolved experiences rather than deliberate attempts to cause harm. Instead of reacting with immediate judgment or withdrawal, there is a willingness to understand the root beneath the reaction. When someone accepts your shadows, you feel less pressure to maintain an idealized version of yourself. You do not exhaust yourself pretending to be endlessly confident, emotionally stable, or unaffected by life as challenges. You can admit insecurity without fearing abandonment. You can reveal past mistakes without expecting condemnation. There is space for honesty because you are not required to be flawless to be loved. Psychologically, this kind of acceptance fosters integration. Many individuals spend years separating their light from their shadow, presenting one and suppressing the other. In a relationship where shadows are welcomed with compassion, those divided parts begin to merge. Growth becomes possible because shame diminishes. When you are not afraid of being exposed, you are more willing to confront and heal what once controlled you. Acceptance of shadows also reflects emotional maturity. It requires patience, empathy, and self-awareness. A person who has not faced their own darkness will struggle to hold space for someone else's, but someone who understands their own fears and contradictions is less threatened by yours. They do not interpret your struggles as weakness. They see them as areas where support, reflection, and growth can occur. In such a connection, conflict becomes constructive rather than destructive. Instead of attacking each other as vulnerabilities, you approach them with curiosity. Instead of shaming flaws, you discuss them openly. This creates resilience. Love deepens not because there are no imperfections, but because imperfections are no longer hidden battlegrounds. To accept someone as shadows is to say, I see the parts you fear showing and I am not turning away. And in that steady presence, real intimacy begins. Presence over possession reflects the difference between loving someone as a living, evolving being and treating them as something to secure. Possession is rooted in fear. It seeks ownership, control, and reassurance that what is valued cannot leave. Presence, by contrast, is rooted in awareness. It is the conscious choice to stand beside someone without attempting to restrict their autonomy. Where possession tightens its grip, presence opens its hands. When possession defines a connection, subtle forms of control begin to appear. There may be expectations about who the other person can speak to, how they should behave, or how much of their time must be allocated to maintain stability. Jealousy becomes normalized. Monitoring becomes disguised as care. The underlying belief is that closeness must be enforced to be preserved. Love, in this state, becomes intertwined with anxiety. The relationship feels like something that must constantly be protected from imagined threats. Presence feels entirely different. It does not attempt to confine. It does not equate love with ownership. Instead of asking, how do I keep this person? Presence asks, how do I understand this person? There is a shift from securing attachment to deepening connection. The focus moves from control to consciousness. When someone values presence over possession, they respect individuality. They recognize that you had a life before them and will continue to have an identity beyond them. They do not interpret your independence as distance. They do not require you to shrink your world to reassure them. Instead, they appreciate that your autonomy is part of what makes you vibrant and whole. Possession often creates pressure. You may feel obligated to constantly prove loyalty or reassure insecurity. Small misunderstandings can escalate because they are interpreted as threats to ownership. Emotional space becomes limited because everything is filtered through fear of loss. Over time, this tension erodes authenticity. You begin adjusting yourself to avoid triggering doubt. Presence removes that weight. It allows breathing room. It trusts rather than interrogates. It listens rather than accuses. When conflict arises, it seeks clarity instead of dominance. The person is not trying to win control, they are trying to maintain understanding. This creates emotional stability because the bond is not built on surveillance or restriction. There is also humility in presence. It acknowledges that you cannot own another human being. You can only choose each other repeatedly. That choice carries more depth than forced attachment ever could. When someone stays because they want to, not because they feel trapped or monitored, the connection gains authenticity. Presence is attentive without being invasive. It is supportive without being suffocating. It is loving without being possessive. It says, I am here with you rather than you belong to me. And within that subtle shift lies profound emotional freedom. Love becomes an experience shared, not a territory claim. So if you are fortunate enough to encounter a connection like this, do not measure it by noise. Do not test it by drama. Do not doubt it simply because it feels calm instead of chaotic. Depth is rarely loud. It does not beg for attention. It does not compete for dominance. It stands quietly, consistently, and waits for you to recognize its value. Real love will not cage you. It will not rush you. It will not demand that you fracture yourself to keep it alive. It will meet you in truth, remain through discomfort, and encourage the parts of you that are still unfolding. It will choose presence when possession would be easier. It will choose safety when urgency would be more intoxicating. It will choose understanding when judgment would be simpler. And perhaps the greatest realization is this: when someone loves your soul, they do not just stay beside your light, they walk with you through your shadow. They do not cling to who you were. They honor who you are becoming. So pay attention, not to who speaks the loudest, but to who remains the steadiest. Not to who demands the most, but to who understands the deepest. Because the one who loves your soul will never try to own you. They will simply choose you, again and again, in freedom, in truth, and in depth.